Hey guys, thanks for joining me. In this week's episode, yes, we are continuing our efforts to be hyper organized around here, and we're doing yet another French cleat wall that's going to feature glue and adhesives, plus how to mount a TV to a wall in the shop using only Baltic birch plywood. If you want to see how all this comes together, stick around. Well, let's just jump into this area here. Not very organized, time to make a change. Let's get going. All of you that signed my Workbench Con Maker Board, thank you so much at that event. What a blast that was. And again, we're just gonna jump into this project. First step in the process is to take some 2-inch panhead screws and install them 32 inches apart into the studs. Reason being, they're gonna be an extra set of hands that I'm gonna use to install this 1/2-inch sheet of Baltic birch right onto the wall, right into the studs. I've pre-drilled some holes and I've also pre-cut out a hole for that plug outlet that you see there. And now, once it's installed, it's time to rip some pieces up to go ahead and start making the French cleat system. After ripping multiple pieces down to 2.5 inches, I've angled my blade to 45 degrees, and I'm gonna show you a little trick. So with some trial and error, I've set my fence up to give me exactly 1.25 inches on both sides of the cut. So when I rip this piece through this 45-degree angle blade, both pieces that come off are exactly the same size. With all the pieces cut to 45, it leaves a very sharp and a very kind of unstable edge. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set my fence up and we're gonna rip off maybe just a kerf's blade worth of material, which is still gonna give us that holding power of the 45-degree angle, but it's not gonna give us that really jagged edge that can cause some problems with splinters or breaking off. Now it's time to install the actual cleats up to the wall. And this is gonna be a 2-step process. The first one is to get everything nice and level and square. And I'm doing that with a 6-inch spacer block until I get all 5 cleats installed all the way down with just some brads. That's all I'm using for now. Then with a drywall square, I'm coming back, I'm gonna make a few marks every 12 inches to reinforce each of these cleats with 1-inch screws all the way down. Making sure that the heads of the screws don't stick out at all. They need to either be flush or just a little bit inset. And there is the wall complete. I actually really like the aesthetic of having those screw heads evenly spaced throughout the wall. I think it gives a really nice clean look. Now it's time to start building accessories, to start putting the actual products up onto the wall. We're gonna start by using this Total Boat 2-part epoxy. I love this stuff. It's always around the shop, but I've never had a great home for it. It's just kind of sat around. I kind of dragged it wherever I needed it, but now it's gonna have a place to be, and we're gonna make this out of 1/2-inch Baltic birch plywood and just kind of follow your nose. I don't really have a plan for this. I'm essentially just measuring out what I need, putting the actual epoxy down on the boards, making some marks, then cutting some little strips with some CA glue and some wood glue, and we're going to attach little pieces here to kind of give this place a place to sit up on the wall. There's not much I could say except, I'm just attaching this with glue, brads, pretty simple stuff, making it a little bit oversized. That way I can come back and trim it back on the table saw, as you can see here. So now I gotta come up with a way to hold this on the wall and keep it strong and rigid and know it's not gonna fall down. So what I've done here is I've cut a piece and it's gonna be the back, basically. I'm gonna show you here. I'm just gonna attach it with glue and brads. Now the glue is gonna be super strong. Once the brads do their job of clamping everything in place, the glue is all you're gonna need. Wood glue, in my experience, has never failed me, and I don't plan for it to now. At this point, I've taken some 45-degree angle cuts on the crosscut sled. I'm just basically bringing a speed square to the party. And you can see there, I'm just making the cuts that I need. And these 45-degree angle pieces are gonna be side supports from the base all the way to the back. That way, there's not too much pressure on that 90-degree joint that we installed earlier. Okay, we're gonna repeat the same process on the other side, glue and brads. And now you can see the piece coming together. At this point, I'm using some CA glue and activator to attach the cleat to the top. But I'm gonna come back and reinforce this joint with some 1-inch screws as well. Again, we attach the piece of 1/2 inch to the bottom to give the support we need. And the piece was also designed a little bit longer. That way, there's an actual drip tray. Check that out. All right, first thing done, now it's time to turn our attention onto the next one. So the next piece I'm building here is essentially going to be a stair-stepping display that's going to hold these restaurant-style squeeze bottles, and they're filled with various what I call shop liquids. Now, what exactly are my choices of shop liquids? Well, I have mineral oil, mineral spirits, boiled linseed oil, acetone, vinegar, plain white vinegar for cleaning up rusted parts, and essentially just water. Now, I like having these liquids readily available, but they've never really had a home either. So at this point, we're gonna just kind of follow our nose and build this stair-stepping display. Once it's complete, we're gonna put that cleat onto the back side, as you're gonna see me do right here. Again, I like using CA glue for this and then coming back and reinforcing it with screws. And once this piece goes up onto the wall, I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by these squirt bottles. As you can see, here are the aforementioned liquids. Nice to have them in their final home. Okay, now it's time to put a TV into the shop. I've always wanted one of these TVs in the shop for various things, whether listening to music through various YouTube playlists or just watching other creators, being inspired about what they're doing. But this process couldn't be simpler. I just used the holes on the back of the TV as reference marks to go ahead and drill 4 holes in, and as you can see here, we've attached basically a simple Baltic birch French cleat, but the cords need a little more room to hang out the back. So I've essentially made this spacer block cleat, and then it has a cleat on top of it. Now that the TV is installed, this is gonna be great, but the TV speakers aren't that great. So I've taken the old soundbar that I used to use from way back when, and I've kept it, and I used it for this purpose. Now it's gonna be attached to the TV, and the sound coming from it's gonna be great. And finally, I got this all thing set up, but there's a bit of an eyesore down at the bottom. All those cords and that plug, I need to get rid of that. So I've essentially built a box that is going to be hollowed out where the cords can then go up. As you see there, I've used my crosscut sled to kind of hollow that piece out. And that is going to be attached right to the wall, giving us a nice clean look. So I can't necessarily install a cleat across this because it would defeat the purpose of the cords. So I've installed these little bitty baby cleats, and they're going to be reinforced with screws and CA glue. And once that block's in place, I really do like the aesthetic of covering up all those cords. So very nice. Now, I think that block essentially needs more functionality. So we're going to attach 3 cleats to the front face of that block, as you see here. And that's going to come in handy a little bit later in the build. I picked up a piece of aluminum from my hardware store that's roughly 1/8 of an inch thick and 1 1/4 inches wide. And as you can see here, I've cut it on the table saw, but it leaves kind of a nasty burr. So I'm using a sanding block to soften those edges. I'm going to attach some pieces of 1/2 inch Baltic birch to the actual block itself, giving me a little space. 2 of these are going to be installed on the side, and I'm then going to come back with a countersink drill bit and reinforce that joint with some screws as well. And now the block that was just meant to cover up cords does now have a lot of functionality into it. But before we start loading it up, I'm gonna go ahead and wedge in some pieces of Baltic birch here to give it a nice strong hold. That way when I attach my tape measures, pulling them in and out, the box doesn't go anywhere. So essentially this is going to be a small tray that I'm going to use to store all of my CA glue. A couple little spacers are going to be put in place here to kind of rise up one of the bottles. That way I get a good visual of what I have in stock. Activator fits in just right, and we're good to go. Of course, continuing with the glue theme, off camera, please forgive me, I made this, you know what it's like to put together wood on a table saw with glue, brads, CA glue and all that good stuff, right? So yeah, I built this off camera, that's okay, right?
But check this out, you ready? Amazing, right? There you go. As simple as that.
So at this point, I want to let you know that the TV and the little French cleat underneath it is a given. That's probably going to stay where it is, but in case you guys have not seen this system, which I guess maybe some of you haven't, which I hope you haven't, because that's why you're watching. Either way, I'm going to show you just the mobility of this real quick. So we're going to speed the camera up. I'm going to show you some different placements, and you know, sky's the limit with where you want things. So check this out. That's pretty ridiculous to put that underneath there. I'm not really sure why I did that. Or maybe like me, and you got kids, and if they're out here in the shop with you, maybe you keep all of your chemicals out of reach. Oh yeah, one more detail. This isn't married to this section here. I can simply move it and put it wherever I would like. All right, so there are some various configurations. However, I'm gonna put it back to how I had in the beginning because that's my preference. So let's do that now. You know, I do want to mention one thing. I'm making this wall out of 1/2" material. My original French cleat wall is 3/4 material, but they are interchangeable. This is the new maker board. Of course, I'm going to discuss who these people are, but this is 3/4 material. And easy, you get it. So let me tell you more about these guys. Hey guys, check this out. The maker board update looks a little different this week, and there's a good reason for that. Well, I lost a bunch of the pieces, and another reason is these chalkboards are going to make it a lot easier for me to update this each and every video, so we're going to go with it. So I'm going to feature Sam the cooking guy this week. Now, he's not necessarily a maker in the sense that we know of a maker, but he has gotten me inspired to get back in the kitchen and start making some wholesome meals for my family again. And honestly, it's a family affair over there too. His kids film, he cooks, and there is a banter sometimes back and forth between he and his son that is absolutely hilarious. He's a funny individual, and he makes cooking seem so accessible. Go check Sam out. Also, Jess. What can I say about Jess? I got the pleasure of meeting her at Workbench Con, and in my last sign video, where I didn't film that one, but in my last sign that I had to make for the company I work for, I had to make a beach scene out of resin. And I went right to her page, got some inspiration. She is a resin guru. If you don't know Jess, go follow her at Crow Creek Designs as well. That's your maker board update, guys. Give them a follow. Tell them where you got the information. Tell them who sent you, okay? That's all I'm asking. And let's get back to the video. So right in the middle of me finishing this project up, Starbond sent me a care package of their CA glues and what they offer. And I'm gonna tell you, I've put it through its paces, and yes, I believe that they make a superior product to what I was using. Nothing against what I was using. It works great, but I like this a little bit better. So gotta give them a shout out and definitely thank them for the care package. As you can see, they definitely deserve a spot up on the French cleat wall. And I explain a little bit more about them on Instagram, so follow me on there as well. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me for this project. This was an absolute blast to build, like most of these are. And again, I want to say your viewership really does mean a lot to us. And also, I'm going to link down below a project that we did inside the house. It's a French cleat system of my son's closet. It's pretty cool. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but we came up with a real modular system so he can move and grow with it. Check that out. It's going to be linked below. Guys, thank you so much. We always invite you to subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna have more videos playing over there, and we got a brand new Patreon campaign that we just launched. A lot of new rewards, a lot of cool stuff going on. Check that down below as well if you want to support us. Again, no pressure. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Chris. This has been A Glimpse Inside, and we'll see you on the next project. Say bye. You say bye? Mwah. Let's go.